Alex Murdaugh, the scion of a prominent legal family in South Carolina's Lowcountry, was charged Thursday in connection with an investigation into the millions of dollars missing from a settlement involving the death of his longtime housekeeper. Authorities said Murdaugh was arrested in Orlando, Florida, upon his release from a drug rehabilitation facility, where he had been recovering following his claim that he was shot in the head on a roadside in September, according to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, or SLED. He will be held until an extradition hearing and faces 2 felony counts of obtaining property by false pretenses. Today is merely one more step in a long process for justice for the many victims in these investigations, the agency's chief, Mark Keel, said in a statement. As I have said previously, we are committed to following the facts wherever they may lead us, and we will not stop until justice is served. The heirs of Gloria Satterfield, a family housekeeper who died 3 years ago in what was initially described as an accidental fall, have insisted they received none of the proceeds from a $4.3 million settlement they say was orchestrated in secret by Murdaugh.
Satterfield's adult sons, Michael Tony Satterfield and Brian Harriet, filed a lawsuit accusing Murdaugh and others of breach of fiduciary duty in failing to pay them. Where exactly the money went and how others profited remains unclear, but Satterfield and Harriet were entitled to receive over $2.7 million in life insurance proceeds, according to a previously undisclosed order shared this month with NBC News and other media by the estate's lawyers. The estate's lawyers, Eric Bland and Ronald Richter, alleged that after legal fees related to the settlement were paid, the remaining money went to a company called Forge, which Murdaugh had made up. A check was sent to a P.O. box set up by Murdaugh, and he ended up with all the money they added. Corey Fleming, the lawyer who represented the brothers at the time of the agreement, said this month that he and his law firm will pay back the estate the legal fees and expenses they collected, and their insurance carrier will also pay its full policy limits according to the lawyers for the estate. Satterfield was 57 when she died from injuries sustained from a fall in the Murdaugh home, where she was an employee for more than 2 decades, according to the estate's lawsuit. The estate's lawyers said Murdaugh had told others that the family dogs had caused her to trip and fall down the stairs. Satterfield was in a coma for 3 weeks before she died. Bland and Richter said Murdaugh's arrest Thursday was bittersweet. Since early September, the families are dealing with the betrayal of trust and that their loved one's death was used as a vehicle to enrich others over the clients, the lawyers said in a statement. Murdaugh's lawyers said they had not seen details in the arrest warrant, but that their client intends to fully cooperate with this investigation. Murdaugh's arrest, his second in 2 months, is the latest in a twisting saga that has raised questions about the family's powerful connections. From the beginning, authorities have considered Murdaugh a person of interest in the deaths of his wife, Margaret, and son, Paul, one of his lawyers said in an interview Wednesday, while insisting that his client was not involved. Murdaugh's actions on the June night that he found his wife and son fatally shot at their rural estate have been scrutinized as state investigators wade through evidence as well as untangle a web of criminal investigations, including the one involving Satterfield's estate, spawned from the double homicide. Law enforcement has said from the get-go that Alex was a person of interest. His lawyer, Jim Griffin, told the local Fox affiliate WHNS in Greenville. State investigators have declined to comment about details of the investigation and Murdaugh's status in the probe. Griffin did not immediately respond to a request for further comment Thursday, but suggested to WHNS that investigators have been unable to connect his client with the slayings. You would think that if Alex was the one who did it, that SLED would have been able to establish that pretty easily that night, Griffin said. You would think they would have searched his house and found blood somewhere. You would think they would have found the murder weapons on the property. You would think they would come up with something to link Alex to the murders, forensically or independent evidence. And to my knowledge, they have not done that. Murdaugh, 53, who worked as a personal injury attorney, had an alibi on the night of the murders, Griffin said, and was spending time with his mother, who has dementia, and her caregiver. In a 911 call placed by Murdaugh at 10:07 p.m. he reported finding Margaret and Paul, who were unresponsive. "My wife and child were just shot badly," he said after finding their bodies near dog kennels on the property. In the aftermath of the shootings, and despite not releasing names of suspects or persons of interest in the case or potential motives, state investigators said there was no danger to the public. Murdaugh's legal legacy and deep connections throughout the Lowcountry for decades quickly threw a spotlight onto him. His father, Randolph Murdaugh III, grandfather, Randolph Buster Murdaugh Jr. and great-grandfather, Randolph Murdaugh Sr. were all elected to the same office as the region's top prosecutor, spanning nearly 90 years. His personal life unraveled when his attorneys say he hired a friend and former client, Curtis Edward Smith, to kill him over Labor Day weekend so that another son, Buster, could benefit from a $10 million life insurance policy. Murdaugh's attorney said he was depressed over the deaths of his wife and son, and was spiraling from a 20-year drug addiction to opioids when he decided that he wanted to die. Murdaugh was charged with insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud and filing a false police report, and released on a $20,000 personal recognizance bond after turning himself in. Separately, Smith faces several charges related to insurance fraud and assisted suicide as well as drug-related charges for methamphetamine and marijuana after authorities say they found those in his home. Griffin denied that the plot was an elaborate money scheme but rather the actions of a desperate man who had lost his will to live. If he was going to end his life, he was going to do it in a way that would benefit his son, he said.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe